Storyboard, I am Anuradha Sengupta. Throughout the year 2010, the spotlight has been relentless in its glare on politicians, business people, celebrities, and eventually, as it turns out to be, the media. Today, as the year winds down, we turn the spotlight on you, what we are calling the digitally empowered Aam Aadmi, who it seems will express his or her opinion and will stand up to be counted. How far-reaching and influential are the consequences of such digital activism or participation? And going forward, what are the complexities and challenges this phenomenon will throw up for the government, for business and for the media? These are some of the questions I'm seeking answers to from my guest today. Please welcome from New Delhi, Shevanti Nayanan, media critic and editor of The Hoot, Santosh Desai, columnist and CEO of Future Brands, and here in Mumbai in the studio, Neeraj Roy, CEO of Hungama.com, and Amit Verma, blogger, journalist and writer. I have one common question to each one of you, and that is, am I right in saying that the digitally empowered Aam Aadmi has reached critical mass in 2010? So, for instance, in 2006, if Time magazine put you or the individual citizen on its cover, can we do that here in 2010? Neeraj, starting with you.
No, I don't think so, not as yet. But the process towards empowerment coming out of digital media for the consumer has certainly begun. And it's clear and evident that both the consumer as well as the brand are today well on the verge of themselves becoming media and getting a sense of that, whether they are capable and understand the ramifications of what that implies right now is still a process which will take some time. So hence, you know, it's yes with a caveat of sorts, but that's
not entirely there.
No.
So Amit, am I overstating the case?
I'm also going to hedge, but I think broadly you're overstating the case. You're right that digital empowerment is extremely influential and is impacting all walks of life in India. But I'd just say that as far as reaching critical mass in India is concerned, you might be overstating.
In 2010, because of you know the Radia tapes and how that.
I'd still argue you're overstating the case because the internet. I mean, bloggers and tweeters in India are simply not as powerful here in India as they are in the US. You can't, they can't affect a political election. They can't get the chairman of a company to resign. The internet isn't nearly as ubiquitous in India as it should be for that to happen. You know, it hasn't gone down to all the vernacular languages. And one of the reasons you're speaking about it and it's come to your attention and why we are all here is that the sort of people who typically use social media are English-speaking urban middle-class people like us, and therefore we are talking about it and using it as a peg for this story. But I think there is still a long way to go, but it's getting there really fast. Okay,
so as a clever journalist who thinks on her feet, Shevanti, I'm going to change this around from critical mass to inflection point. Is it something that is noteworthy?
Noteworthy, yes, but impact-wise, no, in my opinion.
Santosh, come in here quickly with your comment.
I would say that, you know, if you were to look at India as a whole, I think we are very, I mean, no question. I mean, it is absolutely not. But yes, it is noteworthy. But the only thing I would say is that let's keep in mind that the subjects involved were actually also within this very small cocooned world, which is, you know, which is media. So it isn't really going outside that. So I think we need to be perhaps a little circumspect in reading this.
Okay. Amit, is it not true or is it not right to say that it is the online agitation or the online buzz that prompted other mainstream media to follow up with discussions and analysis and commentary on what two mainstream publications, Outlook and Open, actually went public with in November?
I think it's a little difficult to establish causation that way. The Radia tapes controversy broke because Open and Outlook mainstream media publications took the initiative and did those stories. Sure, there was a lot of noise on Twitter, the blogosphere, there was a lot of agitation, there was a lot of activism. Now, what kind of actual impact that had and how it impacted other, mainstream media outlets into taking up the story is a matter of speculation. But, you know, I've been blogging since 2004. I've seen this over the years. You know, there has been digital activism for various issues, right from freedom of speech to plagiarism in the mainstream media and so on.
Is there anything different between those instances and what has happened this year?
I honestly don't think so.
Okay, Shevanti, come in here because I know that I think you've called it the big media blackout about, when the story was not picked up by mainstream media, because the leaks happened sometime in February 2010, and then when mainstream media did pick it up, Outlook and Open did pick it up, there was a sort of silence. Do you feel that the online community in any way impacted put it on the agenda, ensured that mainstream media had to talk about it, or again, am I overstating the case?
No, you have to distinguish between transcripts and some kinds of letters floating around and documents coming out around February, April. And between the tapes actually reaching mainstream media houses, which was really only about 2 weeks before the story broke. They didn't actually have the tapes. Secondly, I think the Twitter noise and all of that stands out because there was this deafening silence from the mainstream media when it happened. When, all of them were implicated, almost many houses, many media houses in that sense. And when it happened, there was a period of at least 6 days where nobody took note. And then I think the Hindu and starting with IBN, CNN, IBN, began to take note, but there were even TV stations didn't for a long time, news channels. So that's very unlikely, and I think that's what makes, so the indignation in my view was greater because of this complete thunderous silence from the mainstream media.
Okay. Amit, a quick question. You've had lots of digital conversations via your blog, via Twitter. What is the sense you're getting of the profile of this person who's online? Give me a psychographic profile.
Okay, if I may quickly in a sentence also offer a counterpoint to what Shevanti said. A few weeks before Radia Gates, there was this whole controversy where Arun Puri had lifted a couple of paragraphs verbatim from a piece written by a Slate reporter. And again, that was a story where there was a lot of noise on Twitter and the blogosphere, and the mainstream media simply didn't take it up. So as far as influence goes, that's just a counterpoint for me. To get back to your question, I think broadly the sense that I get of people who are the audience that I have come to know through blogging and Twitter is someone who is English speaking, who is relatively young, who is probably city-based, who might even be an NRI, a young Indian student studying abroad or whatever. I don't want to generalize too much, but broadly one thing that hasn't happened yet and that I look forward to happening, and I'm very sure will happen really fast, is of vernacular blogs coming up, of Twitter becoming more than just an English-speaking medium, of it expanding beyond just computers and, being used far more. I'd love to see villagers and people in small towns actually tweeting in Hindi from the mobiles.
All this while we've been talking about the potential of what the digital media offers to the consumer, to the individual, okay? But it has been largely in the space of simple transactions in the Indian context, so book your air ticket, compare prices, etc. And it has been in the space of entertainment, and nobody knows that better than you. So ringtones, movie publicity, downloads, all of that. What is the size of the community that we are talking about? And is there a shift, not in terms of real numbers, but interests from just entertainment to empowerment?
See, in number terms, we are the 4th largest internet market in the world with 72 million consumers, and we will eclipse Japan before the end of this fiscal into technically becoming the 3rd largest market. Today, the top 10 sites in the world, India accounts for between number 2 to number 4 in contribution of traffic. Over the next 4 to 5 years, we are likely to reach about 325 million consumers, and then you've got the whole mobile economy, which is really getting ready for the whole social phenomena. The mobile economy has been very linear and transactional, like you talked about. But the numbers there are extremely large. You already have like 700 million SIMs, about maybe 480, 490 million unique consumers, and this will grow in the next 2 years to about 1.2, 1.3 billion people here. And whilst this is happening, and we are at the cusp of this whole broadband 3G piece, Anuradha, what is also emerging is this whole concept of, connected devices. So we're not going to just look at PC and mobile. There is going to be an impact of connectivity through television, through automobiles, through all kinds of devices. And when you layer social media on that, it is something which is at a very, very significant inflection point here. So what's happening in India right now is mobile networks have just about enabled an ability for consumers to blog. To Amit's point, there's just about 4.5 million people who are on Twitter, yet every media channel has the Ashton band, which is Twitter, etc.
All media is using that as their feedback route.
Now, I think, we are perhaps getting a little caught up when we say something like that, because to me, those numbers, whether it's 50 million, 5 million or whatever, you have to bear in mind that's a very influential community which is getting a sense of empowerment.
So you're saying with social networks becoming the first point of contact with the digital media, maybe empowerment and more involvement with civil society would be a result?
So, and that empowerment is more about expression, connectivity, and it goes to next stage, which is transaction, etc.
Neeraj, that's an interesting thought. We'll take a commercial break here, but when we come back, the world hasn't changed, like I was setting out to prove, but it is changing. What are the new rules of the game? Does anybody know? Answers after this break.